Hello, Dr. Mike here for my Introduction to Computer Forensics, Topic 15 at the time of this recording, which is on password recovery or password cracking. So this goes along with Chapter 8, two topics there, archives and documents. The whole chapter itself is about documents and or file analysis. So zip files and documents, which is outlined here to look at. They both have structures and they have ways to determine metadata from them, but they also can be protected. So zip does have a weak password-based scheme to it, as well as Word docs. So very common, you might find protected zip files, and you might find the password for them. As well, there are other areas of computing. We'll talk about that in a second. But on that, the NetLab for this topic is on the NDG NetLab. It's on recovering passwords. It's going to go over protected PDFs and protected zips. So it matches the content of the book there. I think you use PDF crack and you use FC zip crack for the zip files. So I'm not going to go into those, since you'll have a chance to go and walk through those with some lab things to go ahead and crack on. So what I will do is I will show you another cracking utility that could be handy. That comes pre and bundled with most modern operating systems now, and it is called Hashcat. So before we go on that though, I was going to add this. If it's not in there, you can gather information about a zip file with zip details. So in this case, the zip details stuff.zip, which is a zip file I have here. All kinds of information about the zip file. And one of them, of course, is if it's the bit 0, is it 1 or 0 here, if it's encrypted or not, which means it's protected. Of course, you can just simply try to open it or extract the zip file, ask for the password. That's easy test. But zip details and zipinfo-L, I believe, also gives you information about zip files. So just a quick side note there for zip files. Now, let's talk about Hashcat. First, let's talk about hashing itself. So, hashing itself is used a lot for storing passwords. But again, let's go and digress back a little bit. First off, authentication, which is authenticating a user ID password or just a password in this case, maybe for a zip file or a Word document. A lot of times you'll have to run into a problem where you'll have to go ahead and you won't have that password, and you need to get into a protected zip file, let's say an archive document, to find maybe further evidence. So deducing, finding, cracking passwords. So first off, of course, there's always, if there's a suspect in play, get it from them somehow. Now, as a forensic investigator, you may not be the one doing the pressuring or interviewing the suspect. That would be the lead investigators. Their job is their authority. Maybe it's their pressure to release that password, hence, or give up the goods, but they might not. However, you can see here, back to our evidence collection, pictures, videos of the evidence. You might find post-it notes on the monitor, under the keyboard, desk drawers, or you might find passwords in other areas. It could be a password text file. It could be a password manager, which is probably also protected. But it's possible that an unlocked computer might have a password manager that's still open, and that might have access to a password list that has the information for the password file. So just view what passwords in a lot of places. So don't overlook the obvious. Password on text files, password written down in a book, and so on. If that doesn't work, you can try deducing the passwords. And we're going to talk about different types of attacks here. Of course, we have birth dates, so screen numbers, address, telephone numbers, pet names, and so on. And there's more complex methods too. So, and of course, that comes into a subset of actually trying to go and create a password cracking dictionary. So there's some stuff here about cracking passwords using Etsy shadows. Move past that. Here we go. So cracking tools. John the Ripper is a big one. That's what the previous slide was on. Cain Enable, Last Bit, Rainbow Crack. There's a lot of cracking tools. We're going to talk about Hashcat here in a second. Do a quick demo on it. But let's talk about two things. First off, offline cracking and online cracking. Chances are you can do offline cracking. All that means is I'm going to run the tools locally. Online cracking uses online repositories. There are some tools you can use to reverse your hashes. There's hash cracking tools. If you come across the hash password, you might be able to actually crack that hash. So there's online tools for that. That could be great, but they could be slower. And also, if you're doing this for official investigation, it could call into question the use of that tool. So you might want to have something, an offline tool that is verified, validated, and controlled by you. So, approaches to cracking. Dictionary attack versus hybrid, brute force attack versus hybrid attack. So, this gets mixed up a lot. You'll see the brute force, you're going to brute force attack. Truly, a brute force attack is this. Let's say I have a passcode, which is four digits, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe we know it, based on a mobile device, it has a keypad up and you go to open it up. And it has maybe a spot for four digits to be entered. So we know it's going to be 0 through 9, here, here, and here, right? So we can set up a brute force attack to start with 0, 0, 0 and go until 9, 9, 9, and all the combinations of. So that is a true brute force attack. Now again, you could take that even further, and we can say, well, brute force start with lowercase a to lowercase z. Maybe we're going to do, we know it's 8 characters. So we have 1 through 8 characters. Start with every one, lowercase a, lowercase z, 0 through 9, uppercase a to uppercase z, and every combination of for every single slot. So that is actually a true brute force attack, where it's just going to brute force different stuff. I slam this into there and try it out. It's not actually it's not the most efficient attack in real life here. It's actually very inefficient. It takes a long time. It just takes time to do this. It takes time to try every combination. And of course, the longer this is, the more time is going to exponentially go up to where it's almost impossible to try a brute force. So let's come down to dictionary attack. Dictionary attack is where we take a dictionary of known words, maybe one we make ourselves. It's usually a text file. It could be a .txt file. Or a lot of times it's called a dictionary file, DIC file, whatever you want to call it. It could be the top 100 passwords we've seen, and maybe some we generate, and those can be generated from a password list, like the rocku.txt file. You can find these dictionary files, like in Kali. You can look at our password attacks, offline attacks, and we can look at our our password hashing tools. Word lists, there we go. So we look at our word lists here, and there's actually a share word lists, and we have, there's rocku.txt, in fact. Nmap has one, and .lst. Metasploit's got a bunch of word lists. FastTrack's got a wordlist.txt file, and so on. wfuzz has a directory full of word lists. So this little user share word list is going to go ahead and give you information where you can actually harvest these. So, for example, we can use rocku.txt if you wanted to for an attack. So let's take a look at that user share word list rocku.txt. So there you go. So you can see it's going to go and start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Password, I love you, princess, and so on. It's just going to go through each one of these. This is a dictionary attack. Now, in old forms, though, that still could take a while. We don't know the length. The length of the dictionary is going to increase the attack. So if we can do a hybrid attack, it could be build some form of dictionary along with maybe some randomization for a brute force. So we want to build that based upon evidence we might have. So let's go and look at this, for example, here. So here we have some evidence given to us. It says our officers have obtained a password dump of hacker passwords. So After they did find one password that wasn't useful, but they found the format though was flag HQNT dash followed by 4 digits. So can you crack these? So we have these hashes here. At least we think they're hashes. So first thing we gotta do is we can actually feed these into like our hash identifier. So this is hash identifier, and we can actually pass in a hash, and it tells us it's probably an MD5 hash. Could be helpful. Might help us in later attacks to figure out what to use. So if you identify the hash, definitely good for that to do that right there. So what I did was for this attack, and I'm going to use Hashcat. By the way, Hashcat itself, you can find the tools page here. It is a very powerful password cracking tool. It's great for cracking hashes. It's known to be able to leverage GPU. There's ways you can have it tie and use your GPUs for really strong attacks. You can tie in rainbow tables and so on. So I'm going to get all the details for Hashcat. There's a Kali Tools description for it here, and also there's a hashcat.net. You can look over it here and go into the details about all the stuff that it can crack. So the reason why I bring this up, this is not part of the lab, so I want to go ahead and bring this to you as a demo. So again, we're going to build ourselves our own dictionary. So again, I'm told that it starts with flag HQNT dash and then it's 4 digits. So I use a site here called textmechanic.com, and I say go and give me a file. Start with 000, make sure you pad it, and end with 999, and start it with flag HQNT dash. So you can see I have this file here. I save as output.txt. We can see it here. There's the output.txt file. So we know it's going to be some combination of that. So again, we created basically a custom dictionary that's part custom, knowing that it starts with a certain specific set of characters, and we're going to sort of really brute force the last part of that. Now, we have a hashes.txt, which we extracted these hashes out and put them into a single file called hash.txt, and I'm using Hashcat. So Hashcat, I'm going to do a verbose, do -- force on the hash.txt, which is this right here, and I'm going to say use the generic dictionary hash, generic hashing, again, I don't want to go into all the aspects. Look at your help page for Hashcat. -M, I believe, is our hash, generic hashing on, I think it's MD5, will fall into that category 0. I could actually specify the actual hash to use, and this is where that hash identifier can come in handy. And then this is our dictionary to use, output.txt, and I put -show. I didn't realize earlier, so it took only a few seconds, but it went through and it found the hashes right there. So again, I ran a little bit earlier. It took maybe 10 seconds. And I ran it again with -show, and it gave me the results. So that was a little quick, but I tested it out first before I showed you here. But again, you can see how powerful it was. It literally was able to find the actual passcodes now for those hashes based on our custom dictionary. So again, Hashcat. Look at --help, and you can see all the information. You can see here almost, I use this wordless attack. You can see the M, 400M0, M is the hash type, I believe. Device type, you're going to use CPU, GPUs, and so on. So again, I don't get all the details here. Oh yeah, mode is straight mode, and we can actually send in the format of the hash itself. Is it a plain hash? Is it a cracked? Is it a hash with a salt? And of course, we can actually identify the type of hash here. If we want to specify the specific hash we want to crack against. MD5 is a 900, or 0 is the MD5, so it's a raw hash. And that's what we identified it as with the hash ID or hash identifier. And there's online tools to help you identify hashes also. So there's a lot here. I don't expect you to come and walk away with this being a Hashcat expert. Know it exists. No, it comes buried in Kali by default. It can be installed on all types of platforms. And it can, the most important is it can leverage GPUs. So if you do have a really complex password, we have a hash that looks like it's a long, complex hash, SHA-256, for example, and we have a generic dictionary, you can see where the time to the attack is really going to increase. If I can leverage my GPU or GPUs, I can increase my cracking time, and that's right here. I can or use a FGPA, but GPU could be the device type I want to leverage. So again, that's a quick demo of Hashcat, and there's probably other ones out there online you can probably watch. But again, that's an exact idea of a hybrid attack. Volatile memory can also be used. It could be passwords in volatile memory. The password could be, if it was used last, it could be in a memory space. And the rest of the slide deck is on common encryption practices. I'm not going to go into those here. Do realize this one thing though, there is actually two types. With the hashes, it is more of a private key. It's a key to both encrypt and decrypt it. Public key encryption is going to be a little different. If you're trying to deal with decrypting public key encryption, you're going to have two encryption keys. It's a lot more complex and probably a lot more harder to decrypt. So there's also other types of ciphers you can look at, transposition ciphers or the alphabet cipher. But private key encryptions we're looking at, this is probably the most common, again, for use for encrypting individual files like zip files or Word documents. Public key gets a lot more complex, and we're dealing with public key algorithms, one key to decrypt, one key to encrypt, and so on. So, and lastly, of course, the length of the encryption key is going to be more stronger. Makes more sense, right? Longer the passphrase, longer the password, the more guessing I have to do, the more time it can take to decrypt. So whether you have the time to actually put the time to decrypt the file and the resources, that's going to be a hard one to hell. I think for file recovery, it's possible. If you're looking at more longer complex attacks, it could take a long time to run. You might not have the time and or resources to dedicate. You might have to put up the fact you can't decrypt that one file, and you have to take the time to look for other evidence. That's going to be case by case there about that. So, anyways, that's just a quick look at Hashcat and how you can use it to go ahead and decrypt some hashes. That could be also passwords to use to maybe further decrypt other files. So that's really just a quick demo there, and that's it for this topic. Thanks for watching.